Concept of Sunnah in the Muwatta of Malik ibn Anas, Mohammed Yusuf Guraya, Mcgill University, 1969. Chapter 5. 2. The practice of the past, its relation to Sunnah. The practice of the past has been described in the Muwatta by hadith, statements, decisions, verdicts, etc., from the Prophet and from latter authorities, i.e., the companions, the caliphs, the judges, the governors, and the scholars. Sometimes the practice is represented by general statements of Malik, namely, وَالَّذِي لَمْ يَزُلْ عَلَيْهِ عَمَلْ النَّاسِ, or هَذَا مَا أَدْرَكْتُ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهِ وَهُوَ الْأَمْرُ الْقَادِمُ الَّذِي لَمْ يَزُلْ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهِ. Apologies, no Arabic given. It seems from the contents of the Muwatta that the practice of the past represented by the above-mentioned material does not constitute an independent legal argument in the thought of Malik. We have already noted Malik's treatment of the hadith, which is absolutely at the discretion of Malik, though the same is applicable to other forms of past material. Malik hardly mentions any practice of the past, which does not have a practical bearing on the present. Wherever he refers to the past, al-Madi, first he describes the present, then as an additional corroborative argument he mentions the past. Malik gives his opinion in detail on a certain issue, and at the end he adds, and that is the past practice. وَذَلِكَ الْمَادِي مِنَ السُّنَّةِ. He sometimes refers to the past practice which has become custom at present, referring to the practices of retiring during the last 10 days of Ramadan. Al-i'tikaf. He says, Al-i'tikaf is a religious practice like other practices, namely the prayers, the fasting, the pilgrimage, and others like them, and one who engages himself in any of these practices must do according to what has been the practice of the past. إِنَّمَا يَعْمَلُ بِمَا مَدَى مِنَ السُّنَّةِ. Apologies, no Arabic given. Usually he describes the continued practice from the past in terms like madat as-sunnah, that which has been practiced, or madat as-sunnah allati la ikhtilafa fihi indana, the continued practice about which there is no disagreement among us. It is clear from these examples that the past is referred to only when it has some bearing on the present. It is mentioned either in matters which are purely religious and which all the Muslims practice, or it is carefully suffixed or prefixed with the present. إنما قد مدت السنة عندنا أو تلك السنة التي لا اختلاف فيها عندنا. But where the past is used as an independent argument and is no more observed in the practice of the people, he discards it outright and gives his opinion against it. A little before Malik, Al-Araj reports a continuous practice of the people to curse the non-believers during the month of Ramadan. Malik does not approve this practice and declares, this is not being practiced, nor do I think it should be practiced. وَلَا أَرَى أَنْ يُؤْمَلَ بِهِ. Malik reports a practice of Umar ibn Khattab and of the people of his time that on a certain Friday, Umar, while he was on the pulpit, recited a passage from the Qur'an. He then descended from the pulpit and prostrated himself, and the people followed him. At the end of the reported practice of Umar, Malik declares, it is not the practice that the Imam should descend from the pulpit when he recites a passage from the Qur'an requiring prostration and prostrate. There are numerous examples of this type, but the above evidence is sufficient to prove the fact that the past, when it does not yield a corresponding validity to the present, will not be followed and will remain unimportant in the face of the prevalent practice of Medina or against the opinion of Malik himself. Further, it becomes clear from the above discussion that the contents of the past practice were not absolutely specific for Malik. It seems that according to him, the past practice was of a purely situational character and does not take it seriously and does not treat it specifically and strictly. That is why the past as such was not important for him. The past has never been presented in the Muwatta as an independent argument for judging the validity and genuineness of the present. On the contrary, the past is judged by the present. Hence, the Sunnah in the Muwatta is a living Sunnah. It is forward-looking rather than backward-looking process. Stay tuned for part 3 and many more parts.